Goodness.
We ready to get started?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do our thing, yes.
Good evening. My name is Elsa Zavoda, Senior Vice President of Programs for Vision Loss Alliance of New Jersey, and also with us this evening is Vicki Lowry, Program Director.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Vicki.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Elsa. Hi, Vic.
Hello. Thank you for joining. Hello. Thank you for joining us this evening. And just a reminder, this program is being recorded. We ask that you please mute yourselves, and after a few moments of quiet, we will begin. Welcome to Tech Talks, hosted by Vision Loss Alliance of New Jersey. Tonight, we have with us Dean Martineau sharing about how you can obtain accessible newspapers and other reading materials from the library. Before I introduce our guest, I would like to share with you his bio. Mr. Martineau has been teaching adaptive equipment to people who are blind since the days of the Apple IIe and the Braille and Speak. Dean has created recorded tutorials, a computer magazine, and has written the Windows Keyboard Power User Guide and Get Crackin' with Chrome for Windows, to name a few of his books. Since 1999, he has been part of a team offering systems training to Social Security employees. In 2004, Dean created the publication Top Tech Tidbits for Thursday and has produced over 800 issues. Currently, Dean provides training in JSA, Windows, and iOS to individuals directly and through vocational rehabilitation agencies. Before we move on to this evening's presentation, let's review our Zoom protocol for this evening. We ask that you hold your questions until Dean cues you, and when you ask your question, we ask that you raise your hand. For those of you who are dialed in, the raise your hand feature is *9. *6 will mute and unmute you, giving you the opportunity to ask your question. Using a computer, Alt-Y to raise your hand. Alt-A is the mute and unmute command. If you are using a Mac, use the option +Y, the keyboard shortcut to raise or lower your hand. Alt+A to mute and unmute yourself. Using the Zoom app on the iPad, move to the top right, select the More option, and flick down to the Raise Hand. On the iPhone, this feature is located at the bottom of the screen on the right side. And now we welcome to tonight's Tech Talks, Dean Martineau.
Thank you very much. And it's good to be back in New Jersey, especially since I can be in New Jersey without being in New Jersey. I'm in Florida. I really don't want to be in New Jersey right now, because what you're having in New Jersey is why I moved to Florida. Also, I think we may have a few people, other people who aren't in New Jersey, thanks to the fact that David Goldfield put this notice on his email list. And so, we may have a bit of a nationwide audience tonight, which is always kind of fun. So now this program, the idea for it, actually, I stole the idea largely. Kelly Ford, some people may know of him. He's used to work for Microsoft. He's a long-time technology promoter and interesting individual. He lives in Wisconsin, and he put a post on his blog that I'm going to amplify tonight to talk about how he reads newspapers from the library. Now, we'll get to the newspaper bit. Well, okay, let's talk first about the newspaper business. There was a time, I've been using a computer for a while, as a lot of you have, and as the web developed and they started putting newspapers on the web, it was exciting because, gee, as a blind person, I could read the paper, and I could read it pretty easily, really, because my skills are okay, and I knew what to do, and there were papers that I could read, and it was really pretty easy. Well, I don't think it's pretty easy anymore. You go to try to read a particular newspaper, it might not even be available for free. Well, they have a right. The hope was that advertisements was going to support everything, but it didn't. And so they have a right to charge, or, to make it something that you want to subscribe to. So you go in and may or may not be able to read the paper at all. Or if you can read it, the particular article at all, you may be interrupted in the middle of it by a request to subscribe. Or you may then there's all kinds of clutter before you get to the article. It isn't as if you can hit a couple of heading commands and start right there. It can be much more complicated than that. Then once you get to the article, you start reading it, and there's ads in the middle of it, and maybe a request to subscribe in the middle of it, or other stuff in the middle of it that you don't need. There are some procedures to limit some of this stuff, but it takes a lot of work, and then you end up spending a whole lot more time figuring out how to get to and how to read the article than you spend reading the article. So as a result, I don't read anywhere near as much news on the web as I would if we didn't have these limitations. Well, what Kelly Ford figured out is that there's through the public library, there's a database called ProQuest that offers a large collection of newspapers. And once you get things set up, and it does take a little bit of setup, once you get it set up, and you'll see what I'm going to do, it takes me very little effort to read my daily paper, which I'm in Florida. And so the Florida Today is a little paper that comes out here in Brevard County, Florida, Melbourne, Florida. And it also is not available on NFB Newsline. We'll talk about that in a minute because that's another source and people should know about that. So that's the whole idea of getting news from the public library. But I want to talk a little bit, and I don't have as much knowledge as I could because I haven't explored it anywhere near as much as I could. But the public library is actually a wealth of resources. Gone are the days when all it is a bunch of books we can't read. I mean, yeah, we can borrow them and scan them. Okay, that's better than we used to be able to do. But now a significant part of library budgets apparently goes into electronic content, ebooks, audio books, and the kind of databases that we're talking about this evening, one of which is this newspaper database. There's all kinds of magazine databases, legal databases for legal forms and legal guidance and genealogy and just all manner of things, all available electronically. And it's all searchable and it's probably all pretty much accessible. I'll tell you that ProQuest, this newspaper database that I'm going to highlight, is. So now if you're a person who is totally satisfied with the resources available now and you can get to them and you're happy with them, then that's great. I happen to like being able to get to more things, get to more resources. And what a lot of people are doing, in fact, not even primarily blind people, because most of the big public libraries around the country, you can pay for a subscription. You can pay for a library card for a year, and you have all the electronic privileges that somebody who lives there locally does. That may not always be the case. You got to find out. But for example, the one I'm really tempted to pay for, and I understand money is money, but it depends on everybody spends their money differently. The Cincinnati Public Library has a collection of 6 million ebooks. Now, the National Library Service, the people that may give us BARD and all our talking books and Braille books, have maybe 300,000. Bookshare, which is my favorite, has maybe 1,200,000. These guys have 6 million. I don't even know there are that many books, but I didn't know there were that many ebooks. So that's one of the benefits of subscribing to a public library, maybe that may be out of your area. Another benefit might be audiobooks. A lot of people subscribe to apparently a library or two around the country that have large collections of audiobooks, and they listen to them instead of paying for Audible. Because you can get just about all the same stuff. Mind you, NLS does provide a few Audible books through BARD, but nowhere near as many as you can get through some of these libraries. That and the whole notion of information. Something else that I did today, and you can probably do from some of these major libraries, is ask a librarian. Now, you've always been able to call least for the last, I don't know how many years, call your public library and ask a reference question, and many reference questions as you want. That's cool, and you can still do it. But also nowadays you can email or text with these libraries and ask a librarian. So in the two libraries I've checked out, which is a very small sample to be sure, like Florida, where I live, has a statewide Ask a Librarian system. You can get on there from 5 a.m. till midnight on weekdays and ask reference questions of the librarian. And I think that this may be good because Google searches are not as effective and not as easy to read as they used to be. And so, I think there are times when it might be a lot more beneficial to simply ask a librarian and get the information you're after. I asked a question about this whole library thing and got some really good information that I wouldn't have come up with on my own. So that's a service that there's a very good chance your library or your library network will have. So what happened here is that Kelly Pierce wrote a blog post about this ProQuest service, and it's very accurate. And he also provided some extra assistance to us to use it. What happens is you have to find out if your library carries the ProQuest service. Something Kelly didn't know or to point out, because he lives in Madison, which has a big city library that they subscribed to the nationwide service, offering 1,300 or so newspapers and blogs from all over the place. Well, I checked and my library subscribes to ProQuest, so I thought that was the end of the question. It wasn't. They subscribe to the Southeast Regional part of ProQuest, so I can get papers from Washington, D.C. and many other states in the Southeast. That might be or might not be all I want. And if your library subscribes to ProQuest and subscribes to the regional system, that might be all you want. You have to find out what the deal is about that. You have to, in order to start this out, get yourself a library card. That isn't any big deal. And every library card has a number which you can enter to sign in. And your library may offer an alternative approach so that you can have a username that isn't your library card. However, you may need it, I believe you do need it, to get into the ProQuest system. I haven't researched that all the way. Exactly what happens in your library to get you to the ProQuest system or to whatever database or content you want is going to be different from what I'm going to describe. There'll be some links to follow, and you'll eventually get there. However, that is something your library staff is well equipped to help you with, because people need all kinds of help with it all the time. So you can ask them. You can ask them by email, or you can ask them on the phone, and they may not know JAWS commands or anything like that, but they'll know how you can navigate to the ProQuest database or whichever database you want. For this time tonight, we're focusing on ProQuest and demonstrating how easy it becomes to read a newspaper once you get it set up. So I've added the login to ProQuest to my favorites, and we'll demonstrate that in a minute. And it makes it really easy. So do I have sharing privileges, by the way? Vicky
Yes.
oh, good, because I'm going to share screen here. So let's. So we're going to have JAWS with the Zoe voice, speaking pretty slowly. I think it'll be adequate for everybody. It doesn't matter a lot for what I'm going to do, which screen reader you use. And of course, it doesn't matter what voice you use. And you'll get a little more of my speech than you want, but not too much.
Video.
So sharing,
Screen sharing meeting controls.
We are now sharing the screen. So as I say, you have to set this process up. In other words, you have to figure out the process to get through your library, to get to the ProQuest login. I shared the ProQuest login business as a favorite, and that makes it so I don't have to even start in my library because I had the library remembering when I go there, it remembers my account and information, so I don't have to fill that in each time, and I'm sure your library will allow that. So I'm going to use the taskbar to navigate to my favorites folder. I'm hoping. Let's pick up the tempo here a little. This computer is really starting to drag. Okay, did it work? Yeah, this is embarrassing. This computer, it takes it forever to get to things, and speech is very, very, sometimes it just gets stuck for a long time. So I hope we figure this out here sooner rather than later. Nice, I'm glad we're back there. Okay, I love it when things go really badly like this is doing. Okay, in time.
Desktop 1. General top gmail.com.
Okay, that's progress. I'd like to have speech all the time, not just occasionally. Remind me not to use this computer to demonstrate anymore. In fact, I think I have another one. This one has been a very reliable computer, runs Windows 10, but it's starting to really lose its oomph to the point where it's not very productive. And if this doesn't start solving itself pretty soon, I'm just going to navigate and just going to narrate what happens, which I'd rather
Bring all
not
tabs
do.
into one tab dash pin dash Google Chrome.
Okay, maybe we're going to
Screen
have
sharing
speech
meeting.
now.
General dash top.
No, we don't want that window. This is absurd. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to just tell you what this is like rather than letting you experience it, since my computer is being as unproductive as it's being, uncooperative as it's being. Really sad you buy these things. Actually, I've had this one for about 4 years, and I would expect it to do better than this. Maybe it can be somewhat resurrected if somebody knows what they're doing. All right, so what I'm going to do in real life is I'm going to go to my favorites folder. I have my favorites. I don't store them in the browser. I have them
tab dash pin
outside.
dash Google Chrome.
Outside the browser, and so that way favorites, and I can hit P for ProQuest login and hit enter on another computer, and maybe this one someday. Pretty quickly, I load the ProQuest login page. I had to, however, be logged into my library before I could do this. But since I am, I have to log in. Once you get to ProQuest, they require, at least I haven't found a way around this, they require you to put in your library credentials again. That's a little bit annoying, but since I've avoided having to put them in twice, I can just put them in once. So I put in my card number and I put in my password, which is just my last name, and I hit enter. I'm now in the ProQuest database, which I can search. But Kelly Ford did something special for us all that makes this all a whole lot easier. There's a list of their publications, and he put that list of publications into an Excel spreadsheet available to everybody. I will provide that to you so it can be part of the website for this program. The advantage of that is you don't have to know how to use Excel very well to use it. The left-hand column is all the newspapers and blogs, and you could look down through that column. There's a lot of other stuff in between there and what I'm going to describe. They tell, oh, how long has this newspaper been available, and how long, were there any gaps, and is it available as a PDF, and all kinds of other stuff. You may or may not care about that stuff. And in fact, I find I don't care about much of any of it. I do care about how far back the articles are available. So I find that, for example, Florida Today has been, all the issues from 1995 to the present are in there. There are no gaps in coverage at all. There's a different database that has older stuff, which I don't really care about. So when I locate the Florida Today in the left-hand column of the spreadsheet, I then go to the right-hand column, which is where the link to Florida Today is, and I hit enter on that link. Since I'm already logged into ProQuest, I go straight to my newspaper. No muss, no fuss once things are set up. And in my newspaper, I'm landed on today's paper. I can choose any other paper by using the combo boxes and letting them tell me, letting them pick a day or a month and a year, so I can read any issue I want. And I can also search. I'm not so far inclined to do that. I just want to read the paper. But today, so I start out, loads today's paper in a second, and I hit H for heading, and I'm taken to the first article. I can read the headlines just like people who read newspapers do. They read the headlines. So I can use the headings, standard headings feature that every screen reader has on every website, and navigate and read the headings for all the articles in the paper very quickly, very easily. Since this is a paper that provides full text, well, I have two choices when I find an article that I want to read. One choice, which I don't use as much, but it works, is I can email the article to myself. And so I hit B for button to take me to the email button. And at that point, I fill in my email address and my name. And I then hit the button. I think there's one other step in there, but hit the button to send the email. When I get the email, which I get very quickly, of course, because it's an email, I open it up. It comes with an attachment, so I thought maybe I'd have to open attachment to read the article, but no. I open the message, and the article, the body of the article, full text of the article, is right there in my email. Now, the NFB Newsline can do that too. Let's digress a little bit and talk about NFB Newsline. And if there's interest, we can talk about that in a future program, although it's been around for a long time, and I suspect most of you know about it already. NFB Newsline is a free service provided by the National Federation of the Blind in just about all states. There's a couple states where you can't get it, but all the other states you can. And they have about 300 and some publications, not only newspapers, but magazines and some other different diverse forms of publications. And it's free, and it started out as a phone service. It still is a phone service, but you can also use it on the web now. And for example, I use the Braille Sense 6, which is a Braille tablet, and it has an app for it. And all of the HIMS products are actually the Selvus. Got to call them Selvus now, because they were having some problems with copyright and patent infringement. All the Selvus products have NFB Newsline built into them if you have a Braille display, or the what's that thing called? They have a competitor of the Victor Reader Stream. So Newsline's a great service, and it also offers the ability to get things emailed to you, as well as to read full text. I find that, and I haven't compared or checked out, quality on Newsline is declining a little bit because the quality of newspapers is declining a little bit. But still, it's a great way to read the paper. And there are some papers I read that way regularly. And I think it's this what I'm talking about with ProQuest is kind of an adjunct to that, because as I said, my paper isn't available there. So I can't just subscribe. I actually did subscribe to Florida Today for several years, and it was usable, but this is much better. So, all right, I've gotten to my daily paper. I could have emailed myself the article. The other thing I could do is use the command to get to a link, and there'll be a link for full text. Now, JAWS doesn't offer as good a way to get to this link as NVDA or Narrator do. NVDA just offers a quick keyword link. So you can just get to the link that way, because then once you hit the link for full text, and there's a couple of ways to do it, but you find the term full text, and that's where the article is. And you can use your screen reader's version of Say All. Just sit back and let it read the article to you. It doesn't take any effort at all. It's just a straightforward process. So I had wanted to do a demonstration of a New Jersey newspaper, but since I discovered belatedly that my paper only offers the southeast region of ProQuest to you, I couldn't do that. But there are lots of New Jersey newspapers and New Jersey blogs in here. So if you're tempted by any of this, you'll have to ask some questions or do some investigation. Is my paper, whichever that paper is, in ProQuest, or in the particular ProQuest database that your library offers? But the libraries are more than willing and more than happy to offer information about this and answer your questions, because it's in their best interest and it's in your best interest to use these services. And I know I have thought, and I still somewhat think, that as a blind person, the public library isn't going to have much for me, and I'm wrong. They have a lot and a lot that the rest of us that is not going to be available anywhere else. And because they are a public library, even though it's public libraries are kind of a target to take funding away from, but I notice even in Florida, surprisingly to me, because Florida is not the most progressive library-friendly state in the union, the libraries in Brevard County have all added hours at the beginning of the year. I usually see them taking away hours from libraries, but in this case, they've added hours, and so there's some vibrancy there, and certainly some of these larger city libraries around the country that I suggest you might want to subscribe to are very vibrant and very going concerns, and they have support for adding content. Not only paper books, which actually doesn't probably help us very much in the case of those large libraries, but the digital content that I'm talking about. So I can't obviously get you all the way there yourself. You're going to have to ask questions and do some research, but we can all help each other, and there's lots of mailing lists where people can help each other on this kind of thing. And so I think, since I couldn't use my computer and demonstrate this very well, that I'm ready to open it up for questions, and I hope that people have some questions or some discussion. About this topic, or NFB Newsline, or reading news and getting information, because it isn't, to me, quite as easy as it used to be. But if we add the public library to our toolkit, I think it becomes a whole lot easier. So thank you for listening so far, and we will see what questions anybody has.
All right, this is Elsa. I'm going to open it up for questions as Dean indicated, and we'll start with Matt.
Those, so everyone knows, the public libraries have another app where you can download audiobooks. It's called Hoopla and Libby. Need a library card, and you can search for an author or any series.
That's right. And those apps, those apps are accessible, and you can, so yeah, they have, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about is you can get, and if you're, and probably I would say most public libraries nowadays are going to give you access to that, even if your local library isn't very large, but it's free. It doesn't cost you any money. The libraries I'm talking about maybe subscribing to, that's going to cost you some money. It's going to give you a whole lot of access to a whole lot of material, but it is not free. Your local library is free. And you can, once you go in there, you have to go into the branch. I think in local situations, there's no way around it. You have to go into the branch. At least here, there was no way around it. You have to go into the branch to get your library card the first time, and then to keep renewing it every few years. So you have to make the occasional trip to a branch. There may be ways around that. You can talk to your library if that's an issue. It wasn't a problem for me, so I just went into the branch one day when I was near one and got myself a card. And I don't care about the paper card if I even have it anymore. But the number, that's what I wanted, and I wrote that down, and that's what I use. But yes, you can use Hoopla and you can use Libby, and those are two different apps that I think many, if not all, libraries are going to make available to you.
Yeah, my county, all the libraries have an app. It's called Buckles, and it stands for Bern County Library System, a union, something like that. And they can download any audiobooks from any library.
Yeah, and I was surprised to see that my little old library here in the Space Coast, Brevard County, now they have an app. I haven't even downloaded it. I just saw it. That I think it hasn't been out that long, and I tend to prefer using the computer over the phone, but a lot of people prefer the phone over the computer. So those apps make a lot of this stuff possible, and you can, as I say, it's just a great resource. I can't really say enough about it. And Matt, you've got the idea. You can get audiobooks from your public library, and just and it saves. You don't have to pay for Audible. You don't have to wait around to see if Bard is going to get it, which it might, but it might not. You can just get it from there.
That's what I done. Thank you so much. I like your presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Anyone else have questions?
I have a short time tonight if nobody has anything they want to discuss about information and reading newspapers and
Don't
I
be
was very
shy.
taken. I was very taken by it when Kelly wrote that. I thought because that really did a lot of he did a lot of the legwork that would have made it a lot more difficult for me and us to do this. And it's all the blogs that are on there too. I was amazed about all the different blogs that you can get that might be interesting to people. You can get all of those blogs obviously on the web, but then you have ads in the middle of them, and they want to get you to sign up by email, and they want to get you to like them everywhere, and it's just this is a more straightforward way to go.
Anybody else have questions?
I hate to win
Comments?
the record for the shortest presentation ever.
Hi, this is Michelle.
Hello, Michelle.
Hi, I thought I would share, this would be for the low vision part of the community. It's a bit related in that it's newspapers, but different from what you're specifically sharing. And it does involve a subscription to the New York Times, but The New York Times
Put the
also
ear off in the
has an
bedroom.
audio app that you can access when you're a subscriber. But I actually read the New York Times every morning with very limited vision. I do have a little bit of central vision, which, like I said, really this is for low vision. And almost every article now in the New York Times has a play button, and you can listen to the article in its entirety without ads and anything else being spoken. Or if I use an iPad, if you have spoken content enabled, which means you use your two fingers to swipe down on the screen, as long as you're able to open an article, you can have your iPhone, iPad, or Mac read, not Mac, actually, iPad or iPhone, read what's on the screen. Therefore, it would read the article with minimal ads. So I access that paper every day. Like I said, it is a subscription, but I find as a low vision person, it's very accessible. And it enables me to read the paper every day. So it's great.
Well, and that applies to people who are totally blind too. That's
Mm.
you're using voiceover to do
I'm
that.
actually, yeah, you know what? You could speak to how to do that. I'm actually using the limited central vision I have to press those buttons, but you're absolutely right. It could be
Yeah,
done with
because
complete voiceover. Yes, definitely.
because what you're describing, that two finger swipe down gesture to
Mhm.
read the article, that's a voiceover gesture. I don't, maybe
Great.
somebody else uses it, maybe some other app uses it too, but that's a voiceover gesture. And the and also the ability to play the content, that would be thoroughly accessible. That's a good idea. I haven't done that yet because I haven't subscribed to the paper. That's kind of a different approach, but it's a worthwhile approach. For one thing, we do need to support news media because they're getting there, and there's going to be some perhaps attacks on news media, and also they're just plain running, low on money, and so we're losing newspapers and local newspapers, which is a major loss. Um, the So the thing with what you're doing is you're subscribing to a paper and you're getting a paper and you can read that and it's a major paper. That's one approach. Um, the what I'm offering, which is a different approach, is either through your local library or through subscribing to a large library that has lots of material. You're doing a subscription and you're accessing all sorts of material under that subscription, under the aegis of that subscription. So, but yeah, that's the ability, and I think that there's things to explore about whether Apple News offers some benefits. I haven't looked into that very thoroughly. So there's a lot of ways to skin the same cat, which is a bad expression that probably should be retired. A lot of ways to achieve the same end. Uh, and the one I've talked about is one of them, and it has merit, and so do the others.
Thank you, Michelle. Michelle, were you referencing using Speak Screen?
Elsa, it's probably the same. When I go into settings, it's called spoken
Yep.
content. Is the same?
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep. So that's under the Speak Screen menu, and it's kind of like a light version of VoiceOver of OCR, if you will, using similar gestures to VoiceOver.
Yeah, the idea of it, which I haven't used, but the idea of it is to let you read what's on the screen. It lets you, and it
Yeah.
doesn't give you all the navigation that you didn't probably want anyway if you're using it, but it lets you, do exactly what Michelle is doing. Read screens, read, information that's on the screen. So that's.
Yep. We have a hand up for call-in user 1. Is that you, Marie?
There are some people it would be helpful if you muted, by the way, because sometimes people are saying things that override whatever the questioner is saying.
Right. It's Dirk Nyhart from Berkeley with
Okay.
just a gratitude vibration for ProQuest. I just went to neuro ophthalmology and paleoanthropology, and both of these pretty obscure subjects came up with many hits. So
Mm-hmm.
bravo to you, and I'm profaning my local reference librarian who never deigned, if she even knew, to share with me ProQuest. It's so wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's there's people, make fun of the internet. I'm not sure they do as much, but people make fun of the internet and talk about the pornography or the fighting and all that. And yeah, that's all there, but you can ignore it all and you can find so much support and so much viable information because we have to really investigate information. That's true. That's been true and it continues to be true. We have to be knowledgeable. We have to read things that might be not necessarily what we already believed or might come from sources we don't know about or weren't ordinarily going to consult and get to know things. Otherwise, we're just at the mercy of people who want to manipulate us. And that's across
Naisha.
the board.
Oh, yeah. Naisha.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep,
We
we
can.
gotcha.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
I was having a hard time unmuting. I had a question about the the Envision glasses and the Ray-Ban glasses.
Yeah, somewhat.
Do you think that they will ever, or is there a way? Would there be a way to incorporate this app with the glasses so that the glasses can read it to you with the because you hear what's going on with the arm of the glasses over your ear. So I'm wondering, would that ever be a consideration or a possibility, or do you think that that could be possible?
Well, I certainly don't know what directions those companies are going to take. I'd have to say that I don't think so. What we're talking about here is reading text, that's ultimately ends up being shown on a computer. I don't see those glasses as solutions to the problem that, gee, I can't read the newspaper very well on the web. I'm annoyed with all the ads, or it isn't even available. I want to get a subscription that will either enable me like Michelle does to subscribe to a paper, or like what I'm suggesting, going into the library without, you don't have to go into it anymore, and getting into the database. I don't see those glasses as that's where their direction's going to go. They're going to want to, and people are going to want to use them for, and the developers are going to want to develop them for seeing in the environment, seeing what's around, putting a piece of paper or something in front of them and having it read the piece of paper. That's cool, and they do that. Envision does that better than the Meta glasses do right now. The Meta glasses aren't really designed for the blind. We're just sort of taking advantage of them. But Envision, they don't always read. You have to really force them to read you an article or read you the whole paper. They want to just sort of summarize it for you. And there are other glasses that are going to come out. This is a case where we who are blind are going to benefit from an advancement in technology. When advancements come along in technology that we can benefit from, then the costs aren't too high. Now, that's not true of Envision, because Envision is taking advantage of this, and they're pretty expensive. But so actually, I don't think so. I don't think that what we're talking about tonight is something the glasses are going to do. But I'm also not any kind of an authority on those glasses. I don't own any, and they're not really on my radar So there's lots of blogs and lots of places to find out about them. And but I don't see that as a direction they're going to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next. Any other questions?
It's always good. And I imagine they asked, I assumed you guys, Vicky, and you guys ask what topics people might want to hear about, because and those glasses might be one of them, and that might be a viable topic to talk about. But you know, if there aren't a lot of questions about this, what topics do people want to find out about? What questions do you have elsewhere? And then, you know, you can have presentations can be arranged for those topics.
I would like that. About the glasses, I would like that.
Yeah, that's definitely a going concern. And there's those two that are out. And I was told by somebody who might know what he's talking about that there's another pair coming out for the blind that only costs $600. The Envision glasses cost $2,500, which puts them outside of many of our price ranges.
Yes. Vincent.
Yes, good evening, and thank you very much for the presentation and the topic itself. I use Bard for books. I have I have a library card, and I have gone to the library and I have gotten books that come in a cartridge, and actually they lend you also the cartridge reader, which I think is fantastic. I think that I'm really amazed by the services, the enhancement of services of libraries throughout the country. And I mean, just hearing that Cincinnati Library has 6 million audiobooks, my gosh, that is incredible. I'm an avid reader, but sometimes some of the titles that I'm researching, topics that I'm researching in Bard, are not there. But my question, and I'll put it out there, concerns the newsline the NFB puts out. What I have found out is that the selection of the articles, or the actual format of the articles, leaves a lot to be desired. For example, usually to get information, I use Associated Press or Reuters primarily, just to get a wider scope of
Right.
news. But the format is it's not an easy format. It's like the same or very similar news is repeated twice, and many times the format itself, repeats a lot of links, or the way it is written, it has a lot of symbols that the voice reader reads, and makes it difficult to understand, and pretty much annoying. And so that's one thing. And the other thing is, like, for example, with the New York Times, probably getting a subscription directly to the newspaper would be much better. I have bought subscriptions for my grandchildren, but I gave up, and my children, but I gave mine up mainly because I also gave them other magazines, and it was just a bit too much money. But for example, in the New York Times, with the NFB newsline, now if you want to read about sports, you have to buy a separate subscription to the Athletics, which is another company that New York Times bought. If you want recipes, you have to subscribe to another section. And if you want also general information on primarily technology, you have to subscribe to Wirecutter. And the number of articles now has has lessened, and several of them, and this would be primarily with organizations like Reuters and Associated Press. Sometimes they are repeated pretty much the same thing 2 or 3 times. So it may have like 28 articles in one particular section, but sometimes about 10 of them are repeated twice, or some of them even 3 times. So would you have any idea of who oversees that? Is it the NFB that oversees that, or is it independently run by the newspapers that contribute their content to Newsline?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I share your experience with Newsline. It's gone downhill. I don't think NFB oversees it. Okay, and you can talk to them and email them. I think whenever you go into Newsline, it shows their email address, and you can certainly write to them. I don't think they're going to be able to do much about it. Um, the quality of the news is simply deteriorated in a lot of their publications. Now, the good news, you may not know this, I didn't know it. The Athletic is available on NFB Newsline, and it is very complete. So you can read The Athletic just fine, and there's all kinds of information in there. Because I'm sort of a sports fan, and I'm amazed with all the stuff that you can find in The Athletic. So um, you don't go to, so you just subscribe to The Athletic as one of the magazines you get or one of the newspapers you get on your Newsline feed, and just don't bother with the New York Times when it comes to sports, because New York Times doesn't have any anymore. It's really annoying. But yeah, the because of staff cuts, they use artificial intelligence to, like the Associated Press. Um, there's just nowhere, the staff, they're not writing, humans aren't writing those articles anymore, and the information just isn't complete. Um, so a lot of this, and that's why I think that, and I don't know to what extent services like ProQuest are going to be able to solve um, some of this problem, but I think other library databases can probably solve the problem we're talking about. And there's more newspaper databases than just this. Newspapers.com is another one that some of the libraries subscribe to, and I believe there's even another one besides that. So, but no, Newsline's going downhill. Some publications are still good and are still readable, and a lot of the other ones aren't. And certainly write to the NFB about it. Um, make constructive comments, but I don't know how much they're going to be able to do about it.
Thank you very much. Would you be able to tell me, because I was looking under national newspapers and I didn't find Athletic in there. Would you remember by any chance?
Yeah, well, how did I get it? Yeah, well, it's not really a newspaper. Um, I think, you know what, I think I found it was what is their category for news up to date news updates, or what do they call them? So the what same category that has Associated Press.
Breaking news, I think, is
Yeah,
it?
I think that's, yeah, breaking news.
Okay, great.
Try that, but it's definitely there. So and NFB could help you find it if you don't, but it's there, and for a sports fan, that's really what you want right now, because it's and I mean they they cover soccer a lot. If you're a soccer fan, that's kind of good, because a lot of places don't cover that, but they've real thorough soccer coverage, and all the American major sports um, are covered very thoroughly with lots of good good insight from people who are writing articles about it. So
Thank you.
Anyone else have any more questions or comments?
I see somebody with a 201 area code has left the meeting. So we have some people from outside of New Jersey on this one.
201 is New Jersey.
Oh, it's 201 New Jersey?
Yes,
I thought
but
it
we
was
do have
DC.
people on this call from out of state for sure. Yep. Well, Dean, yes, did somebody say something? No? Dean, we'd like to thank you for this informative presentation on how to access the newspaper and other reading materials. We appreciate you always coming and joining us in Tech Talks, and we look forward to the group suggesting some future topics, and we always welcome you suggesting topics for us as well.
Thank you again.
Thank
Please
you.
remember to follow us on the Tech Talks Facebook page and VLANJ YouTube channel, where we will be posting this recording in the next few days. Please join us for our next edition of Tech Talks on February 26th. We have not scheduled a speaker just yet, so if anybody has any hot burning topics, please contact Vicki and I, or if you have a suggested speaker that you think might like to present, we would welcome that as well. And for tonight, we wish everyone a safe, warm evening and wish you all well.
Thank you all very much.
Thank
Have
you.
a great night, everyone. Thanks,
Thank you very
Dean.
much. Have a
Good night,
Very
everyone. Have a
much.
great night.
Night,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody. Take care. Stay warm and
Bye.
stay safe.
Bye.
Good night.
General dash top between cake V0.